Okay, here we go with part 2 of chapter 9, section 3, city governments. Okay, so when we ended part 1, we were talking about home rule. And home rule um, gives city governments the freedom to rewrite, write, or amend their own charters. Home rule cities manage their own affairs. And some states limit the independence, though, of their cities because, again, some cities are so large. You have some cities that literally are larger than a lot of states across the United States. You know, you take New York City, for example. New York City itself is larger than Nebraska. It's larger than South Dakota, North Dakota, Wyoming, um, Utah, New Mexico combined. All of those states combined do not have as many people as New York City does. And so states do have to limit how much independence they do give their city governments. Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to look at the different types of city governments.
Chip, I'm gonna come at you like a spider monkey. Like a spider monkey. Go on.
Now remember, if I go into Microsoft Word, it's like I'm writing on the board, so you need to make sure you write that down in your notes. So, the first type of city government we're going to talk about is mayor-council. Okay? In a mayor-council form of government, hold on, okay, mayor-council. First, you have a city council. And the city council is the lawmaking body. Then you're going to have the mayor. And the mayor is the chief executive. So, if we want to look at this kind of like on a federal government scale, city council would be like Congress, and the mayor would be the president. Or on a state level, city council would be your state legislature, and your mayor would be your governor. But here we're talking about local level, so city council is the lawmaking body, and the mayor is the chief executive. And then also within some cities, not all, but some cities, especially your larger cities, they are going to be broken down into wards. So a ward is how a city is divided up in a mayor-council form of government. So for example, Pierce is way too small to be broken up into wards. Omaha, for example, is broken up into wards. And so then you have different people representing these different wards in Omaha. Now, they don't all represent, it's not like each one of them makes up a member of the city council, but if a person in that part of Omaha is having issues with something, they go to the person that represents their ward. That person then goes to the city council, and then from there, they voice the opinion, they speak up for these people. And again, it's kind of hard for us to envision this in a town the size of Pierce. Even a town the size of Norfolk, they don't have anything like this. But again, you get something like Omaha, they do. And unless you've really been there or you've read about something that these people may have done, it's kind of hard to explain it. But just like we have the state of Nebraska is broken down into congressional districts. Large cities are broken down into wards. Getting back to the mayor-council form of government. In a mayor-council form of government, the mayor prepares the budget, they propose laws, and they appoint city officials. The city council, they pass the laws, and they approve the mayor's appointments. Now, in city governments, you can actually have two types of mayor-council forms of government. You can have a weak mayor plan and a strong mayor plan. Just like the names tell you, in a strong mayor plan, the mayor has more power than the city council does. In a weak mayor plan, the city council has more power than the mayor does. Okay, so this is the mayor council form of government. The other two types of, oh, and another thing is the mayor council form of government. Let me get back to Microsoft Word. Mayor council form of government. Is the oldest and most common form of city government that there is out there. Okay, now we're going to move on to the next slide.
If you're calm, that wondrous big cat will be calm too. But if you're scared, that beautiful death machine will do what God made it to do, namely, eat you with a smile on its face.
Okay, next we have the commission form of government. Commission form of government started in Galveston, Texas. Okay, so it started in Galveston, Texas, and the whole reason for it starting was that back in 1900, there was a hurricane that just devastated Galveston, Texas. Galveston actually lies to the south and east of Houston. It is right on the shores of the Gulf of Mexico. And back in 1900, you know, they didn't have obviously the advanced warning that they do now. And so when this hurricane hit, it completely caught the city off guard. In excess of 20,000 people died. The city was just literally wiped away. It was like a Category 5 hurricane, and they had to rebuild the city. The problem is that no one in the city had any experience with doing this. So what they decided they were going to do was they were going to start up a new type of government. It was going to be a commission type of government. In a commission type government, there is no single executive. Like what you have in a mayor council form of government. Instead, what you have is you have individuals that are hired to run different parts of the city, and they have more of an expertise in that part of the city. What I want to try to do is go back one slide from where we're at, and here you can see this is something like a commission type of government where, you know, this is for Littleton, Colorado, and you can see they have board of commissions, election commission, fine arts committee, housing authority, library board, licensing authority, planning commission, riverfront authority, tree committee, and whatnot. And so that's something that you're going to get from a commission form of government that you're not going to get in other forms of government. And then the other type of government that we have is a council manager type of government. Here you have a city council, but instead of instead of a mayor, you have a city manager. The city manager is hired by the city council. So the city council hires the city manager, and this type of city government started in Sumter, South Carolina. Now, you can see that the city council is going to pass laws. They appoint, they hire a city manager, but then the city manager, they might propose a law, maybe, maybe not. And then what's going to happen is the city manager is going to appoint department heads. So, for example, here in the town of Pierce, and of these three types of city governments, of the three types that I have listed here, of the mayor council, the commission, and the council manager, we're kind of a mixture of all three because we have a mayor, we have a city council, and we also have a council manager. So I guess really instead of all three, we're kind of more like mayor, council, and council manager, not so much commission. But then in our form of, in what we have here is, since our mayor is not a full-time mayor, Pierce hired a city manager. They did this back in around 1994, 95, 96, right in that range. And just like it kind of says right here, the city manager appoints department heads. So we have people that are in charge of various aspects of our of the town of Pierce. We have someone that's in charge of the city pool, someone that's in charge of city rec baseball, someone that's in charge of city rec softball, individual that's in charge of our library, individual that's in charge of our city parks, our city sewer, city streets. These people are actually hired by the city manager. Now, in some cases, some of these individuals were actually employed by the city before our city manager became city manager, so they were kind of like grandfathered in, so they continued to hold that position. But in other cases, our city manager has actually hired these people. So this is it for section 3, part 2. After you get done watching this, you then need to work on guided reading worksheet 9.3 and or chapter 9 vocabulary worksheet. And if by chance you have those done, then you work on chapter 9 study guide.